They thought Earth was defenseless, until humanity rose as a single, vengeful force. When alien bombardment turned our greatest cities into graves, the survivors swore, they struck first, they'll never strike again. The flagship, USS Horizon, drifted silently through the vast emptiness of space, its hull glinting under the distant starlight. Commander Elena Reyes stood at the observation deck, hands clasped behind her back, watching the unfamiliar constellations of the Kepler 442 system. After 6 months in deep space, the mission had settled into a comfortable routine, cataloging exobiological data, mapping asteroid fields, and testing new shield prototypes. Beautiful, isn't it? Lieutenant Meera Patel joined her at the viewport, her dark eyes reflecting pinpricks of starlight. Every new system means fresh possibilities, and no surprises. Elena smiled. That's why we're out here, to expand humanity's horizons, to learn. The ship's intercom crackled. Commander, Chief Engineer Black requests your presence on the bridge. When Elena arrived, Jonah Black was hunched over his console, his scarred hands moving rapidly across the display. The burns that covered his forearms, souvenirs from a childhood spent in a war zone, caught the blue light of the ship's instruments. Something's not right, he said without looking up. Shield fluctuations. Minor, but persistent. Could be sensor ghosts. Communications Officer Aiko Tanaka suggested from her station. We're far from any mapped interference. Meera frowned at her navigation display. I've been detecting intermittent electromagnetic pulses. Nothing that matches our database. Keep monitoring, Elena ordered. If anything changes, I want to know immediately. The next 12 hours passed without incident. Elena had just retired to her quarters when the alarm blared. Commander to the bridge. Meera's voice was tight with tension. Emergency! Elena raced through the corridors. When the bridge doors hissed open, the crew turned to her with ashen faces. Massive energy signatures, Lieutenant Patel reported, her fingers flying over the console. Slicing through local space toward the inner system. Over 50 unknown capital-class ships. Friendly vessels? Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. None cataloged, Meera whispered. Aiko's console lit up with an incoming transmission. Emergency broadcast from Earth Defense Command, she announced, her voice trembling as she patched it through. The message came through garbled and desperate. Earth under attack. Major cities bombed. We need help. Immediate assistance. Names flashed across every screen. New York, Mumbai, Lagos. Cities where millions lived. The bridge fell silent. Jonah slammed his fist on the console. We need to go back. Now! Setting course for Earth, Meera said, already calculating jump coordinates. Elena's mind raced through protocols, through options. But there was only one choice. Full warp, she ordered. Now! The Horizon streaked through hyperspace, leaving a blue trail in its wake. During the 4-day journey home, news continued to arrive, each transmission worse than the last. Tokyo obliterated, São Paulo in flames, Paris reduced to rubble, the human defense fleet overwhelmed and scattered. Elena sat alone in her quarters, staring at a hologram of her family, parents and sister in Chicago. No transmissions had come from the Windy City in over 24 hours. In the mess hall, she found Aiko silently weeping as she monitored communications channels. They hit civilian centers first, Aiko said, wiping her eyes. No warning, no demands. On the bridge, Jonah and Meera were arguing. We should rush in, give them everything we've got, Jonah insisted, his scarred hands balled into fists. Meera shook her head. That's suicide without coordination. We need to rendezvous with Fleet Command, form a strategy. While we strategize, people die, Jonah countered. Elena interrupted. Both of you, focus. We'll make our decision when we reach Earth orbit. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace near Earth, the sight stopped them cold. The blue planet was wrapped in smoke and fire, Orbital defense platforms drifted in pieces. The debris of destroyed ships, human and alien, littered the approach vector. An emergency channel opened, and Admiral Marcus Holden's face appeared on screen. His uniform was torn, his face streaked with blood. "Horizon," he said, voice hoarse. "We've lost 8 capital ships. Casualties exceed 1.2 billion. If you're within range, intercept the bombers. We can't hold much longer." The bridge fell silent as the magnitude of the disaster sank in. "Setting intercept course," Mira said quietly. The Horizon broke formation, racing toward a cluster of alien capital ships in high orbit. Mira's sensors detected smaller craft, bombers, diving toward civilian zones below. "Weapons hot," Jonah called. Elena gave the order. "Fire everything we've got." The battle was short and desperate. Human weapons barely dented the alien shields. The Horizon rocked under plasma fire that raked its hull, systems screaming warnings as Jonah fought to keep the engines online. "Shields at 17%, he reported. "One more hit and we're done." "Withdraw," Elena ordered. "We need to rebuild shields." As they retreated to a safer distance, Admiral Holden's voice crackled over the comm. "If you can't stop them here, they'll finish us on the surface. Godspeed." Aiko's voice broke through the chaos. "Commander, I'm receiving reports about Chicago." Her eyes met Elena's. "Ground zero. All survivors extinguished." Elena felt her heart turn to stone in her chest. She clenched her jaw, grief crystallizing into something harder, colder, behind her. Mira collapsed in her chair, sobbing for the civilians they couldn't protect. 6 months after Earth's fall, the planet's surface had become a tapestry of glass craters and ash. In the former United Nations headquarters, now a weapons bastion, humanity reorganized itself. The Human Retaliation Corps had risen from the ashes, training volunteers and planning revenge. Lieutenant Marcus Tejada, once a philosophy professor and peace advocate, stood at rigid attention in a line of new recruits. The nightmares of his bombed hometown haunted his sleep, replacing his once pacifist convictions with cold resolve. In a laboratory deep beneath the surface, Dr. Lila Sato bent over a microscope, studying alien tissue samples. The former xenobiologist had redirected her expertise toward a singular goal: developing bioweapons specifically tailored to Zephyrian physiology. "Progress?" asked a stern voice behind her. Dr. Sato straightened to face General Marcus Holden, once the heroic defender of Earth's orbit, now the stoic director of the Human Retaliation Corps. "The Zephyrian cellular structure is unlike anything I've seen," she replied. "But I'm close to a breakthrough. Another week, perhaps?" General Holden nodded. "Make it 3 days. We're assembling strike teams." He turned to address a group of recruits touring the facility. "They thought we were weak," he told them, his voice carrying throughout the room. "They'll learn differently." Captain Nadia Foster, a brilliant physicist before the attack, now led battle simulations in the training arena. Her eyes had lost their academic curiosity, replaced by cold precision as she instructed volunteers. "Here," she said, pointing to a holographic alien anatomy. "Target their brainstem nodes. 1 shot, 1 kill." Late one night, as Dr. Sato worked alone in her lab, Aiko Tanaka, now serving as Chief Intelligence Officer, burst through the door. "We've intercepted a transmission," she said breathlessly, "from the Zephyrians." Within minutes, key personnel gathered in the command center. A hologram flickered to life, showing a tall, silver-skinned being with elongated features and 6-fingered hands. "I am Prince Vexar of Zephyria," the alien announced. "We acted to neutralize a future threat. Genocide was regrettable collateral. Let us negotiate." The room erupted in furious shouts until Dr. Sato slammed her hand on the console, silencing everyone. "They had no warning," she said coldly. "They decided Earth was surplus. We owe them nothing." Humanity's unified will hardened further, refusing to entertain negotiations. In the following weeks, General Holden commissioned Task Force Retribution, 25 HRC warships equipped with reverse-engineered cloaking devices, and Dr. Sato's prototype Zafgen biogrenade, a weapon designed to target Zephyrian DNA. Commander Elena Reyes, now hardened by loss and thirst for vengeance, volunteered to lead the flagship HRC Vanguard. "Your experience in deep space makes you the obvious choice," Holden told her during the briefing. "But I need to know you can do what's necessary." Elena thought of her family's faces, of Chicago's ruins. "Whatever it takes," she promised. The fleet departed Earth's orbit silently, cloaking devices engaged, carrying humanity's collective fury toward its first target, the Zephyrian colony on Kepler 438. After 2 weeks of hyperspace travel, the Vanguard emerged over a lush, oceanic world, a Zephyrian colony with 2 million inhabitants. Scanning consoles chimed with data that made the bridge crew exchange glances. Not a single shield stood between them and total assault. "They don't expect us," Mira whispered. "They don't know we're capable of this." Elena stared at the beautiful planet below, remembering Earth's blue oceans now turned to toxic sludge. "Prepare assault teams," she ordered. As the fleet moved into position, the primary view screen flickered with an incoming transmission. Prince Vexar's face appeared, his silver features contorted with alarm. "Human vessels," he began. "We detect your weapon signatures. We are not all murderers. There are innocents here, children, who had no vote in the attack on your world." Lieutenant Tejada, serving on a boarding frigate, felt his heart stutter. Children, innocence. Words that echoed his former life as an advocate for peace. He hesitated, hand hovering over his console. On the Vanguard, Elena slapped an override. "We set the rules when they bombed us," she announced to the fleet. "Execute retaliation protocol. Flak cannons open fire." Colony cities vanished in bioluminescent fire as the Zafgen grenades were deployed, acidifying the atmosphere with a compound specifically designed to target Zephyrian biology. Marine teams boarded orbital stations, encountering unarmed scientists and children who had no chance to escape. In the midst of the slaughter, Dr. Sato personally oversaw the harvest of live Zephyrian specimens for future experiments. Her face betrayed no emotion as she directed soldiers to secure the struggling aliens in stasis chambers, a moment that underscored humanity's irreversible moral collapse. Through long-range sensors, Commander Reyes watched smoke plumes rise from the once pristine planet. "We did this," she murmured, her voice hollow. Mira broke down at her station, sobbing uncontrollably. Jonah slammed his fist against a console. "They were innocent!" he shouted, the scars on his arms standing out white against his flushed skin. Admiral Holden's broadcast cut through the chaos. "Colony neutralized. Casualties, 2 million. Next target, core systems. We cannot show mercy." The commanders absorbed the magnitude of what they had done. They had murdered 2 million innocents in cold blood. Emotions swirled, regret, relief, grim resolve, as the HRC turned toward the ultimate confrontation. News arrived. Emperor Zexthul had mustered 800 warships near the hyperspace nexus point. An ambush awaited any human vessels attempting to penetrate deeper into Zephyrian space. Admiral Elena Reyes, now promoted after the successful first strike, oversaw a fleet of 250 stealth-cloaked human warships concealed behind asteroid holograms in the Nexus corridor. Final preparations were underway. Chief Tactical Officer Jonas Marr, a brilliant strategist recruited from Earth's last naval academy, calculated ambush coordinates with cold precision. Lieutenant Marcus Tejada stood on the observation deck of his frigate, staring into the void. "I'm killing to avenge," he whispered to himself. "But is it justice or madness?" Dr. Lila Sato finalized her newest creation, a virus payload that would trigger Zephyrian shields to overload, leaving their vessels defenseless. The Zephyrian fleet entered the Nexus in a sleek, triangular formation, clearly overconfident, unaware of the trap. Human vessels flickered out of their cloaks in waves as Admiral Reyes gave the order. All ships, open fire. Space erupted in a cacophony of plasma blasts and decoy drones. Over 3 hours of brutal combat, 780 of the 800 enemy vessels were disabled. Boarding parties delivered final blows, executing survivors without hesitation. As the battle neared its end, the surviving Zephyrian admiral, Prince Vexar himself, transmitted a desperate plea directly to Reyes. His silver face appeared on her screen, blood streaming from a wound on his temple. "Admiral Reyes," he said, voice trembling, "I offer unconditional surrender. You must understand, only 10 million among our 12 billion are soldiers. The rest are civilians forced into this war. Show mercy in exchange for our complete surrender." Elena studied his face, remembering the billions lost on Earth. "You never showed us mercy," she replied coldly. She turned to Dr. Sato, who stood at her side. "Deploy Zafgen Mark II." Sato nodded and transmitted the activation code. The nanovirus, designed to ensure no survivors, began to spread through captured Zephyrian ships and escape pods alike. Within days, the human fleet converged on Zephyria Prime, the homeworld of their enemy. Countless orbital defense platforms crumbled under computerized assaults, courtesy of Sato's cybervirus. Planetary shields failed under relentless bombardment. Volley after volley of meteor-sized projectiles tore into Zephyrian cities. Ground forces landed in strategic locations, deploying biological weapons that neutralized every living cell capable of sustaining Zephyrian DNA. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Zexthul made his last stand. Cornered by human forces, led by Dr. Sato herself, he fell to his knees, his silver skin dulled by fear and exhaustion. "Why?" he asked, looking up at the human scientist. "We believed you were a threat. Our intelligence indicated your species would attack us within decades." Dr. Sato showed him the memory sphere, a holocube listing every murdered Earth civilian by name, 2 billion entries scrolling endlessly. "This is why," she said. "Every name, every life you extinguished." Zexthul knelt, uncomprehending, pleading for his children's lives. "They are innocent, like yours were." Without reply, Sato activated the nanovirus. The Emperor collapsed, his body dissolving from within. Over comlinks, Admiral Reyes announced to remaining human colonies scattered throughout the solar system. "The war is over. The Zephyrian Empire has been eradicated. Homewards, to rebuild." Her voice was hollow. Victory tasted of ash and regret. Lieutenant Marcus Tejada, standing on the barren surface of Zephyrian Prime, knelt beside a crater where a school once stood. He whispered, "This is not justice. This is our folly." A single tear traced soot across his cheek. As human vessels drifted away from the silent world of gray skies, the message, "Never again," emblazoned across view screens, unsure if that vow was redemption or empty bravado. The USS Horizon had begun as a vessel of exploration, its mission to expand humanity's understanding of the cosmos. Now, as Commander Elena Reyes sat in her quarters aboard the renamed HRC Vanguard, she couldn't remember what that hope had felt like. "Admiral," Mira's voice came through the intercom, formal now, where it had once been friendly. "We're ready to depart Zephyrian space." "Acknowledged," Elena replied. She stood, straightening her uniform, black now, not the blue of the exploration fleet. The emblem on her chest bore the new symbol of humanity, Earth encircled by a ring of fire. On the bridge, the crew worked in efficient silence. Jonah Black's hands moved across his engineering console, the scars more pronounced against his pale skin. He had lost weight during the campaign. They all had. "Final casualty report from Zephyria Prime," Aiko announced, her voice devoid of the empathy that had once been her hallmark. Estimated 12 billion Zephyrians neutralized. Human casualties, 47. Elena nodded. Set course for Earth. As the fleet prepared to enter hyperspace, Lieutenant Tejada requested permission to board the flagship. Elena granted it, curious about what the former philosopher wanted. They met in her ready room, the stars of Zephyrian space still visible through the viewport. "Admiral," Tejada began, his voice quiet, "I'm requesting reassignment." "On what grounds?" He met her eyes steadily. "Moral objection." Elena leaned back in her chair. "The war is over, Lieutenant. There's no more killing to object to." "That's not entirely true, is it?" he challenged. "The colonies we haven't reached yet. The outposts. General Holden has already ordered their destruction." "They're Zephyrians," Elena said flatly. "They're survivors," Tejada countered. "Some of them children, some of them scientists who oppose the war." Elena stood, anger flaring. "Did they show mercy to our children? To our scientists?" "No," Tejada admitted. "And that makes them monsters. What does it make us?" The question hung in the air between them, unanswered. Back on Earth, reconstruction had begun. The glass craters were being filled, temporary shelters erected over the ruins, in what had once been Central Park. General Holden addressed a crowd of survivors and soldiers. "Today marks the beginning of a new era," he declared. "Humanity has proven its resilience, its determination. We will rebuild stronger than before, and we will never again be victims." The crowd cheered, but not everyone joined in. Dr. Sato stood at the edge of the gathering, her lab coat replaced by civilian clothes. She watched the celebration with empty eyes. Captain Foster found her there. "You should be up there with him," she said, nodding toward Holden. "Your weapons won the war." Sato shook her head. "My weapons didn't win anything. They ended something." "Isn't that the same thing?" "No," Sato replied softly. "Winning would have meant finding a way to stop them without becoming them." Foster frowned. "You sound like Tejada." "Perhaps he has a point." The Vanguard emerged from hyperspace near Earth, leading the victorious fleet home. On the bridge, Elena watched her blue world grow larger on the view screen. Patches of green had begun to reappear among the ash and glass. Life returning, somehow, despite everything. "Admiral," Aiko called from her station. "Incoming transmission from Luna Base. Priority 1. Elena nodded. "Put it through." General Holden's face appeared on screen. "Admiral Reyes, welcome home." "Thank you, sir. I'm afraid I have disturbing news. Our long-range sensors have detected unusual activity in the Andromeda Galaxy. Energy signatures that match neither human nor Zephyrian technology." Elena felt a chill run through her. "Another species?" "It appears so, and they seem to be watching us." The implication was clear. Humanity had revealed itself not just as a spacefaring race, but as one capable of and willing to commit genocide. Any observers would draw their own conclusions about the threat Earth posed. "What are your orders, sir?" Elena asked, though she already knew the answer. "Prepare your fleet, Admiral. The Zephyrians were just the beginning." When the transmission ended, Elena remained staring at the blank screen. They had won their vengeance, but at what cost? Earth was safe, for now, but humanity had painted itself as a predator in a universe potentially full of threats. Jonah approached her station. "Your orders, Admiral?" Elena thought of Chicago, of her family, of the billions lost. She thought of Zephyrian children dissolving under nanovirus attacks. She thought of Lieutenant Tejada's question, "What does it make us?" "Maintain defensive posture," she said finally, "and open a channel to Lieutenant Tejada. I need to speak with him." "About what?" Jonah asked. Elena turned to face her crew, faces hardened by war, souls scarred by vengeance. "About what comes next. About whether we can find our way back from this." In her laboratory beneath the ruins of Geneva, Dr. Sato reviewed her data on the Zephyrian species, now extinct by her hand. Something in their genetic structure had begun to fascinate her, markers that suggested they too had once been victims of aggression. Their warlike nature possibly an evolutionary response to ancient attacks. "Too late to matter now," she murmured, closing the file. Her assistant, a young woman who had lost her entire family in the bombardment of Sydney, looked up. "What's too late, Doctor?" Sato hesitated. "Understanding. It's always too late for understanding." On the surface, reconstruction crews worked day and night. New buildings rose from the ashes, designed to withstand bombardment. Defense platforms more powerful than anything previously imagined orbited the planet. Humanity was rebuilding, not just its cities, but its identity as a species that would never again be vulnerable. Yet in quiet moments, in the spaces between triumph and preparation, a question lingered. In defending themselves from monsters, had they become something even worse? Admiral Reyes found Lieutenant Tejada at the memorial in what had once been Chicago. A simple black obelisk rose from the glass plane, engraved with millions of names, Elena's family among them. "You wanted to see me, Admiral?" Tejada asked, saluting. Elena gestured for him to walk with her. "I've been thinking about your request for reassignment." "And?" "Denied," she said. "But I have a different assignment for you." Tejada's expression remained neutral. "I won't participate in further genocide." "Neither will I," Elena replied, surprising him. "General Holden has detected another species watching us. His instinct is to strike first. Like the Zephyrians did to us," Tejada observed. "Exactly. And we know how that ends." Elena stopped walking and turned to face him. "I'm assembling a team. Scientists, diplomats, thinkers. People who remember what we were before all this. For what purpose? To find another way." Elena looked up at the sky, where stars were beginning to appear in the twilight. "Vengeance has cost us too much already. I won't let it cost us our humanity too." Tejada studied her face. "General Holden won't approve." "I know. That's why we'll have to be careful." For the first time in months, Tejada felt something like hope stir within him. "Who else is on this team?" "Dr. Sato, Captain Foster. Others who've begun to question what we've become." "And our mission?" Elena took a deep breath. "To reach out to whatever's watching us before Holden can strike. To try understanding before vengeance. This time?" Tejada nodded slowly. "It's a start." As they stood in the shadow of the memorial, the names of the dead surrounded them, a reminder of why they had chosen vengeance, and why they now needed to choose something else. In her quarters that night, Elena found an old data chip, one she had carried from the horizon, but hadn't viewed since the war began. She inserted it into her console, and a recording played, herself, younger and hopeful, speaking the oath of the exploration fleet. "We journey outward not to conquer or claim, but to learn and understand. We are humanity's ambassadors to the stars, bearing peace and curiosity as our only weapons." The words sounded naive now, impossibly idealistic. Yet something in them still rang true, still called to a part of her that the war hadn't completely destroyed. As Earth rotated beneath her, Admiral Elena Reyes began to draft a new mission statement. Not for vengeance this time, but for redemption. They had shown the universe that humanity would never again be victims. Perhaps now, they could show that they need not be executioners either. The galaxy watched and waited for humanity's next move, wondering which path they would choose. In the skies above what had once been Zephyria Prime, a single human vessel remained, a small, scientific outpost tasked with monitoring the planet's recovery. Lieutenant Tejada had requested this assignment after his conversation with Admiral Reyes, and to his surprise, she had granted it. From his viewport, he watched the gray landscape below. 6 months after the attack, the first signs of life had begun to appear, simple organisms that had somehow survived the nanovirus, or perhaps evolved in its aftermath. The planet was not dead after all, merely changed, as Earth had been changed. His console chimed with an incoming transmission from the Vanguard. "Report, Lieutenant," Admiral Reyes said when her image appeared on screen. "Signs of microbial activity in Sector 4, he replied. "Life is adapting." Something like relief flickered across Elena's face. "That's good news." "It is," Tejada agreed. "And there's more. We've detected energy signatures from the southern continent. Faint, but consistent with Zephyrian technology." Elena's expression hardened. "Survivors?" "Yes," Tejada said simply. "A small group, maybe 100. They've taken refuge in underground bunkers." A silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. The order to finish what they had started, to complete the genocide, remained unspoken. "Continue monitoring," Elena said finally, "but take no action." "Admiral?" "You heard me, Lieutenant. Let them be." After the transmission ended, Tejada stood at the viewport for a long time, watching the gray planet turn beneath his station. 100 survivors among billions lost. A fragment of a civilization. Seeds of something that might, in time, regrow. It wasn't redemption. Nothing could redeem what humanity had done. But perhaps it was a first step away from the abyss. On Earth, Dr. Sato had begun a new project, one she kept hidden from General Holden and his hardliners. In her private laboratory, she studied the Zephyrian communication system they had captured during the war, focusing on the universal translation algorithms. "If we're going to contact the Andromedans before Holden can attack them," she explained to Admiral Reyes during a secure transmission, "we'll need to understand their language." "How close are you?" Elena asked. "Hard to say. Alien cognition is alien, but I'm making progress." Elena nodded. "Work faster. Holden is pushing for a first strike authorization. The Security Council votes next week." Sato's eyes widened. "So soon?" "Fear is a powerful motivator," Elena replied grimly. "And we're all afraid now." After the transmission, Dr. Sato returned to her work with renewed urgency. As she manipulated the alien algorithms, she couldn't help but wonder if the Zephyrians had once had this same conversation. If they had debated whether to strike Earth first, if there had been voices of restraint among them that had gone unheeded. The thought gave her no comfort. In Geneva, now the capital of the unified Earth government, General Holden addressed the Security Council. "The evidence is clear," he said, his voice echoing in the rebuilt chamber. "The Andromedan signals show a civilization with technology far beyond our own. They have observed our conflict with the Zephyrians. They know our capabilities, and more importantly, our willingness to use them." The council members, representatives of Earth's surviving nations, listened in tense silence. "We have two choices," Holden continued. "Wait for them to decide we're a threat and strike first, as the Zephyrians did, or take preemptive action to ensure our survival." Captain Foster, seated in the gallery, watched the proceedings with growing unease. As the architect of many battle strategies against the Zephyrians, she knew the pattern Holden was following. The same logic, the same fear-driven reasoning. She caught the eye of Jonas Marr, the tactical officer who had planned the Nexus ambush. He nodded slightly, a signal that he shared her concerns. When the council recessed, Foster and Marr met Admiral Reyes in a secure room beneath the chamber. "He's convincing them," Foster said without preamble. "The vote will go his way." Elena paced the small space. "We need more time. Sato's translation algorithm isn't ready, and Tejada's research on Zephyria Prime suggests there's more to the story than we understood." "What research?" Marr asked. "He's found evidence that the Zephyrians were themselves victims of an attack, generations ago." Elena explained. "It shaped their culture, made them fear, and strike preemptively." Foster's face paled. "Like we're about to do?" "Exactly." Elena stopped pacing. We need to delay the vote. How? Mar asked. By giving them something else to consider. When the Security Council reconvened, Admiral Reyes was at the podium, not General Holden. The shift in the program had been last minute, approved only because of Elena's status as the hero of the Zephyrian War. Members of the Council, she began, before you vote on General Holden's proposal, I ask you to consider new information. Holden, seated in the front row, glared at her. She met his gaze steadily, then continued. We have discovered that the Zephyrian attack on Earth was motivated by fear. Fear based on their own historical trauma. They were once victims of genocide themselves, and it shaped their perception of other species as threats to be eliminated before they could strike. Murmurs ran through the chamber. Elena raised her voice slightly. I ask you, are we now following the same path? Are we becoming what we fought against? This is irrelevant. Holden interrupted, standing. The Andromedans are watching us. They know what we did to the Zephyrians. They will logically conclude we pose a threat. Perhaps, Elena conceded. But consider this. They watched the entire conflict. They saw the Zephyrians strike first. They saw us defend ourselves. They saw us commit genocide, a council member said quietly. Elena nodded, facing the difficult truth. Yes, they did. And that is why our next action is so critical. Do we continue the cycle of fear and preemptive strikes? Or do we try something different? The chamber fell silent. I propose an alternative to General Holden's first strike, Elena said. A message, an opening of dialogue, a chance to break the cycle. A chance for them to prepare against us, Holden countered. Or a chance for understanding, Elena replied. Something we never had with the Zephyrians. The vote was postponed, a small victory. As Elena left the chamber, Holden caught up to her in the corridor. What are you doing, Admiral? He demanded. My duty, she replied. To humanity's future, not just its survival. Holden's eyes narrowed. The Zephyrians had the same debate, you know. Their moderates lost. That's why we're still here and they're not. Is that the lesson you took from all this? Elena asked. That brutality is the only way to survive? It's the lesson the universe taught us, he said. Elena shook her head. No, it's the lesson we chose to learn. In her laboratory, Dr. Sato received word of the postponed vote with relief. It gave her time to complete her translation algorithm, time to understand the Andromedan signals. As she worked, Aiko Tanaka joined her, bringing data from the long-range sensors monitoring the distant galaxy. There's a pattern to their transmissions, Aiko noted, pointing to a sequence on the display. It repeats, with slight variations. Almost like a greeting, Sato finished for her. Or a warning. They worked through the night, the algorithm gradually deciphering more of the alien signals. By morning, they had a partial translation. We observe, we witness, we remember. Sato stared at the words. Not exactly friendly, she murmured. Not exactly threatening either, Aiko pointed out. They sent the translation to Admiral Reyes immediately, within hours. She had assembled her team, Sato, Foster, Mar, and others who shared their concerns about the path Holden advocated. We need to respond, Elena told them, before the council votes again. Respond how? Foster asked. We don't fully understand their message. With truth, Elena said simply. We tell them who we are, what happened, and what we hope to become. The team worked for days, crafting a message that neither excused humanity's actions nor promised aggression. When it was complete, Elena presented it to the Security Council. This is what we propose to send, she said, displaying the text. We are humanity. We were attacked without warning. We defended ourselves. We went too far. We seek understanding, not conflict. We wish to break the cycle of fear. Holden scoffed. Weakness. You're showing weakness. No, Elena countered. I'm showing evolution. the capacity to learn from mistakes. The council debated through the night. When the vote finally came, it was close, but Elena's proposal passed. The message would be sent. As preparations were made to transmit across the vast distance to Andromeda, Lieutenant Tejada reported a new development from Zephyria Prime. "The survivors," he said via secure channel to Admiral Reyes. "They've sent a signal." Elena felt her heart rate increase. "What kind of signal?" "A simple audio transmission. I've translated it." Tejada's voice was tight with emotion. "It says, 'Is anyone listening? We are still here.'" Elena closed her eyes, feeling the weight of those words. After all the death, after the near extinction of an entire species, this fragile thread of communication. "Respond," she told him. "Tell them we're listening." "What else should I say?" Elena thought for a long moment. Tell them we were wrong. Tell them we want to understand why this happened. Tell them we're trying to find a better way." It wasn't forgiveness. That would be impossible after what both sides had done. It wasn't peace. That would take generations, if it ever came at all. But it was a beginning, a step away from the abyss that had nearly swallowed them all. As Earth's message streaked toward Andromeda, as Tejada opened communication with the Zephyrian survivors, as Dr. Sato continued to refine her translation algorithms, humanity stood at a crossroads. They had proven they would never again be defenseless victims. Now, they faced a harder challenge, proving they could be something more than vengeful destroyers. In what had once been Central Park, Admiral Elena Reyes stood beside the newly planted saplings, symbols of Earth's rebirth. Above her, the night sky glittered with stars, each one a potential home to beings they had yet to encounter. "They struck first," she whispered, remembering the oath that had driven their vengeance. "They'll never strike again." But now, those words carried a different meaning. Not a threat, but a hope. A hope that through understanding, through communication, through the hard work of breaking cycles of fear and violence, no one would need to strike at all. It wasn't redemption, but it was, perhaps, a beginning.